When King Nimrod heard Abram's words, he ordered him to be imprisoned. Abram spent 10 days confined. At the end of those days, the king summoned all the princes, governors, and sages from across his kingdom, and they assembled before him while Abram remained in custody. The king addressed them, saying, "Have you heard of what Abram, the son of Terah, has done to his father? I commanded him to be brought before me, and he dared to challenge me without fear or hesitation. Now he remains in prison. Decide what punishment is fit for a man who has reviled the king and acted in defiance." The assembly replied, "A man who insults the king must be hanged, but since he has also destroyed idols and rejected our gods, he must be burned to death, according to our laws." They advised the king to prepare a fire in the furnace at Casdim for 3 days and nights. The king agreed and ordered his servants to prepare the fire. Abram was then brought out of prison. Nearly, people, including the king's officials, princes, and commoners, gathered to witness the event. Women and children crowded on rooftops to see Abram's fate, and no one in the city remained absent. As Abram approached, the king's magicians exclaimed, "This is the child whose birth we foretold years ago when the great star swallowed 4 stars." They added, "His father, Terah, also deceived you by presenting another child in his place, whom you executed." Furious, the king summoned Terah and demanded, "Tell me the truth, and you may be spared. Who conspired with you in this deception?" Terrified, Terah confessed, "It was my son Haran who advised me to do this." However, Haran had not given such advice. Terah lied to save himself. The king declared, "Haran will be punished alongside Abram." Haran, who had been undecided about following Abram's faith, thought to himself, "If Abram survives, I will follow his path, but if the king prevails, I will side with him." When the king heard Terah's claim, he ordered Haran to be brought along with Abram to the furnace. The king's servants seized both Abram and Haran, stripped them of their outer garments, bound their hands and feet, and prepared to throw them into the blazing furnace. The crowd, which included women and children, stood watching from rooftops and towers as the scene unfolded. Haran was thrown into the fire, but his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord, and he perished, consumed by the flames. However, the Lord, who loved Abram, intervened. He loosed Abram's bindings, and though he was cast into the fire, the flames did not harm him. Abram walked unharmed in the furnace for 3 days and nights, while the cords that bound him were burned away. The flames leapt out of the furnace, killing 12 men who had thrown them in. When the king's servants reported this to him, he came to see for himself. To his astonishment, Abram walked freely in the fire, untouched, while Haran's ashes remained. The king called out to Abram, "Servant of the God of heaven, come out of the fire." Abram obeyed and stepped out, unharmed, with his lower garments intact. The king was amazed and asked, "How is it that the flames did not consume you?" Abram replied, "The God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, delivered me from the fire into which you cast me." Upon hearing this, the king and the people marveled and bowed before Abram. But Abram said, "Do not bow to me. Worship the God who created all things, who saves those who trust in him." Seeing Abram's miraculous deliverance, the king rewarded him with gifts of gold, silver, and servants, including 2 head servants named Oni and Eleazar. Abram left the king in peace, and many of the king's men joined him, about in total. Abram returned to his father's house and devoted his life to serving the Lord, encouraging others to do the same. At this time, Abram and his brother Nahor married their nieces, the daughters of Haran. Nahor married Milcah, while Abram married Sarai, who was barren. 2 years after Abram's miraculous survival, Nimrod had a troubling dream. In his dream, he saw himself standing before the fiery furnace with his troops. A man resembling Abram emerged from the flames, holding a sword. The man struck fear into the king and chased him. As Nimrod fled, the man threw an egg at his head, which transformed into a great river that drowned Nimrod's troops. Nimrod escaped with 3 other kings. The river turned back into an egg, from which a bird emerged and plucked out the king's eye. Nimrod awoke in terror. In the morning, he summoned his wise men and magicians to interpret the dream. One of his servants, Anuki, said, "The dream foretells that Abram's descendants will rise against you and your kingdom in the future." He continued, "The 3 kings in your dream represent the only allies who will escape with you, while the river and the bird signify Abram's seed, which will ultimately defeat you." Anuki advised the king to kill Abram, warning that as long as Abram lived, Nimrod's reign would not be secure. Nimrod sent secret orders to capture Abram, but Eliezer, Abram's servant, overheard the plan and warned him. Abram fled to the house of Noah and Shem, where he found refuge. The king's men searched for Abram but could not find him. After a month, the king's anger subsided, and he forgot about Abram. Meanwhile, Abram continued to hide in Noah's house. Terah secretly visited Abram, who said to his father, "We must leave this land and go to Canaan, where we will be safe from Nimrod's reach." Abram warned his father, "Nimrod's gifts and honors are vain. Wealth and riches cannot save anyone in times of wrath." Noah and Shem supported Abram's words, urging Terah to heed his son's advice. Terah agreed, recognizing that the Lord's hand was guiding Abram, and they prepared to journey to Canaan. Abram gathered his household, which included his wife Sarai, his servants, and all his possessions, and they departed from Ur of the Chaldees, heading toward Canaan. Terah, however, hesitated and settled with his family in Haran, a city located on the trade route. Abram stayed with them for a time, teaching the people of Haran about the one true God. The Lord appeared to Abram in a vision and said, "Leave your father's house and go to the land I will show you, for there I will make of you a great nation." Abram shared the vision with Sarai and his followers, saying, "We must continue our journey to the land the Lord has promised me." So Abram, Sarai, and his household left Haran and traveled southward, moving closer to Canaan, while Terah remained behind with Nahor. Along the way, Abram pitched his tents in various places and built altars, calling upon the name of the Lord. In those days, the land of Canaan was inhabited by various tribes, including the Amorites, Hittites, and Perizzites. When Abram arrived in Canaan, he settled near Shechem, modern-day Nablus, and offered sacrifices to the Lord. At this time, a great famine struck the land of Canaan, and Abram decided to go down to Egypt to escape the famine. Abram said to Sarai, "You are a beautiful woman, and when the Egyptians see you, they may kill me to take you for themselves." He instructed her, "Say that you are my sister, so they will treat me well for your sake, and my life will be spared." When Abram and his household entered Egypt, the Egyptians indeed noticed Sarai's beauty and reported it to Pharaoh. Pharaoh sent for Sarai and took her into his palace, treating Abram kindly in return with gifts of cattle, donkeys, servants, and wealth. However, the Lord struck Pharaoh's household with severe plagues because of Sarai. Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she was your sister, causing me to take her as my wife?" Pharaoh gave orders for Abram and Sarai to leave Egypt, along with all their possessions, and they departed with great wealth. Abram returned to Canaan and settled near Bethel, where he had previously built an altar. There he called upon the name of the Lord. As Abram prospered, his flocks and herds grew exceedingly large, and conflict arose between his herdsmen and the herdsmen of Lot, his nephew. Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between us. The land is before us. If you go to the left, I will go to the right, and if you go to the right, I will go to the left." Lot chose for himself the fertile plains of the Jordan, near the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and pitched his tents toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful before the Lord. After Lot departed, the Lord said to Abram, "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. All the land you see I will give to you and your descendants forever." The Lord also promised, I will make your descendants as numerous as the dust of the earth so that no one could count them. Abram moved his tents and dwelled near the oaks of Mamre, modern-day Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord. Abram's reputation grew, and the kings of the region began to take notice of him, as he was favored by the Lord in all he did.